Okay, hello everyone. Once again, welcome to Success Steps. Today we are having a panel discussion on COVID-19, and our topic today is how to stay healthy, happy, and motivated during this coronavirus crisis. And I have three esteemed guests today on this panel discussion who are going to talk about their perspective on the issues that are going on in the community with the coronavirus. And we are going to ask them some questions, get their inputs on those questions, and how can we take their advice, take their expertise from their own fields in our daily life, in our career, in our professional life to learn from them and make some of those basic small changes, simple changes that will help us go through this coronavirus crisis. So, without taking much time, I'm going to quickly introduce you to each of our guests in today's session. So, first off, we have from Indore MP Chetali Chhajlani. She is a transformation coach, an educational consultant, and speaker, and also an entrepreneur. She has over 12 years of experience teaching in schools, working with kids and helping them with their career, working with parents and helping parents with their parenting issues, and helping the community in a broader sense. From her background, starting in IT, now she is an entrepreneur and also a success and transformation coach. So, welcome, Chetali. Glad
Hi,
to
thank you.
have you here on the panel. Our second panelist is Mallika Rao from Hyderabad in Telangana. She is a Tai Chi and mindfulness expert. She is a professional keynote speaker. She has been doing this for over 16 years, helping people with Vipassana, Tai Chi, and holistic wellness experience. So, once again, Mallika will be helping us answer questions from how to keep ourselves focused and keep our mind and body calm during this crisis as we go through so many changes that are happening every day in our lives with the news that we have around. So, welcome, Mallika, to the panel.
Thank you, Ashish. One small correction. I've been a holistic wellness expert for 16 years now, but I've been practicing Tai Chi and Vipassana for 7 years only. So that's a correction.
Yeah, thanks for correcting me. And last but not the least, our third guest today is Anju Divakaran from the oil and gas capital of the world, Houston, Texas, in the USA. She is an entrepreneur, investor. She is a business process consultant and has been working for over 16 years, helping different businesses, especially in the oil and gas industry, to come out of such crisis. Not only in personal life, she has some thoughts to share, but also from business standpoint, how big businesses or how your professional life can cope up with such crisis. She's also an entrepreneur, and we will talk about her recent app that she just launched during the coronavirus crisis. So a lot to learn from these three panelists. Welcome, Anju. And I don't know, Anju, you are on probably mute, but I hope you can hear us.
Am I still on mute?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Thanks.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks all of you for being part of this session. And we will try to keep it simple. I have a few questions for you. I have some questions that our audience who have registered for this panel, they have shared. And of course, I'm sure as we talk through this, there will be new questions that may come up through our discussion. So we'll try to keep it simple. We'll try to keep it focused on how we can help by this session anyone who is interested in getting answers to their specific questions on coronavirus situation. And some of the things that we are going to discuss are going to be things that they can practically apply in their day-to-day lives. Some of the things can be more broader, which may not apply to each and every individual, but there are also things that can apply to specific cases, and people can definitely get benefited from that. So, with that said, I want to talk about the one special skill set or one special thing that you bring to the table. And I know one thing about each of you, and I would like you to little bit elaborate on that so that people can understand how what is your background and how you can bring that expertise and bring those answers that might help them. So I'm going to start with you, Anju, first, because I know you recently launched an app on the Apple Store, and that was also during the coronavirus when things are in lockdown, people are working from home, people are working remotely, not everybody is even going in the office. So I want you to talk about that quickly and share with us how you launched that app during this time, and what are some of the lessons that you learned specifically from that example before we go into other questions.
Sure. So I recently launched the app Vicenta, which is short for vicinity-based services. It's a marketplace that aims at connecting home and care service providers to homeowners in a very cost-effective fashion. So, I mean, the decision to go live during coronavirus just happened. I wasn't planning for it. The code was ready, and I needed to launch it. And it's been interesting. The main learning for me is that I had these elaborate plans on how I would launch, right? I would do these steps, and here are the people I would talk to, and all of that went completely out of the window because you cannot really go meet anybody. You have to connect with everybody on phones. I have a two-sided marketplace, which means that I have a ton of service providers that are not tech savvy at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really knowing that you have a lot of plans, but you may have to just wing it, and you need to be comfortable winging it. And you know me, Ashish, I'm not a wing it kind of a person. So it was honestly very hard to come into that state of mind that, okay, here's the situation that's handed to you. How do you make the best of it? How do you really think about your marketing in terms of what people are going through, so that it's not just about your product, it's also about how does your product fit in the broader context of what's happening in the society today. So just those were some of the lessons I learned, and I'm still learning, to be honest.
Sure. Thanks for that high-level update, and we'll go into details of some of those lessons to share with our audience here. So
Sure.
moving on to Mallika. Mallika, I was very impressed with your 21 books in 21 days during the lockdown. You did a series of books with various guests, and you talked about different books and what you learned from those books. Do you want to share a quick snippet from that experience, and what was the agenda of how you did it?
I love books, and there is a show or chat show we used to do called All Booked. What happened during the Corona times is there was a lot of news about staying home, staying confined, isolation, social distancing. But I thought it was time to talk about what they can do during this time of isolation and how they can keep themselves productively occupied. Besides that, this also is a very good opportunity for people to learn something new and discover something new. So what better way than books? So we brought together 21 special guests who were, some of them were avid readers and thought leaders, and then authors as well. And we wanted to bring forth 21 life-changing books that people can read during the lockdown and make good use of the time.
Right. And I was able to catch some of those sessions, and they were really interesting. So thank you for doing that. I'm sure your other audience would have definitely benefited from that. And moving on to Chetali. So Chetali, I know you have been doing a lot of other webinars or sessions, specifically on parenting and some of the education related sharing. So do you want to talk about that and how some of those things have changed because of the coronavirus situation?
Yeah, sure. Fundamentally, there's this, this came so sudden. Nobody was prepared. So this came as a shock to many of us, and people are really not able to relate and cope up, and they were, just things were going haywire. So in these times, looking into the limited resources because you were not prepared, and coming out of those situations, because I'm based here in India, so what we see over here is comparatively we could cope with it in a very, very natural, nicer way comparatively, because usually we have your joint families, and there are people are more connected, so it was comparatively easier, I would say, and we could find out the ways and means to keep ourselves and kids busy and I've been giving tips to parents to how to keep their kids busy. And there are small activities we are doing with the kids, which are really giving us very good results over here. And we're really able to engage our parents and kids both in that way. So, yeah.
So I'll definitely be asking some tips myself because I have two kids running around in the house right now, and it's getting difficult day by day to keep them engaged. I have run out of all the jokes, all the games that I can play with them. So definitely some of the tips I
Yeah.
can use myself. So before
Okay.
we go more detail into this question, I want to share something quickly with you and our audience. And I'm not sure how many of you have actually seen this, but let me talk about this quickly, and then
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
go into more
I
details.
have been through.
So you
Yeah.
probably saw this from New York, right? It has been
Yeah.
on the social media for quite some time now. This person, he
Yeah.
was standing in his balcony and he sees a girl in Brooklyn on her roof dancing, and he got interested in her and sends a drone to her with his phone number, and things started from there. And suddenly, they got talking, and then they had a virtual date on their rooftops arranged by some friends. So it's just that as human, we need connection, right? I mean, we are social people, we need connection. And when things like this happen, when you are confined to a place, stories like this, people finding love, and again, this is one off story, but people finding love during this time and making the best of their resources. What do you have, any viewpoint? I don't know if you've seen this before or this is the first time you're seeing this. There is a lot more details of the story. It's a whole, one probably blog, and probably 2-3 minute video where you can see this person actually sending a phone number on a drone to the girl and all those things. What are your thoughts on this particular situation, and how do you think this is something that we should learn from? I don't know, everybody has a different perspective, so I have my own perspective which I'll save for later, but I want to hear from you. And maybe Mallika, do you want to take this up first?
Yeah, so these are certainly interesting times. We can no more pretend that it is normal and it is going to be the same as we knew world to be before Corona. Um, Contrary to what people believe, I think yes, there is physical distancing that happened. However, I see that people are more connected than now, and they're making attempt to connect now more. Um, uh, I think relatively because even relationships for that matter were in auto mode, and most of the time we take it for granted that okay, mama papa are there, I'll call once in a week, or I, I can go and visit them after a month or few days. Or but I think now is the time where people are getting even more sensitive about all these things, and they are reaching out to people, and thanks to technology it is keeping us more connected than ever. So the flip side of this COVID times is that people are actually um, becoming aware of connections and then connecting artfully. So by choice, not because of the networking or such like things. Those are happening any which ways, but I think people are connecting more authentically now.
Thanks, Monica. That's a good thought. Now we are being more genuine and authentic rather than just connecting to someone for a purpose. Thanks for that. Anju, what are your thoughts? You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I agree with Mallika. She had it bang on where she said that we are all trying to connect more because we are in our homes. We crave that connection, so we reach out more often. I think it also gives a lot of room for introspection as well, because now you have so much time that you start thinking about things that are important, and where do you really spend your time and energy. So that has been personally very helpful for me, and I've heard that from friends and family as well, that this really has, like, it's a forced stop, think, evaluate kind of situation, and I think everybody is appreciating that a lot. And it also is making people think, when things go back to normal, whatever normal means in a future world, are they going to spend their lives the same way? So
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely a big question. How things will change after this, and I think we will talk about that and some of the impact that we are already seeing in the community, not only in the US but also in India. And in fact, today I did hear that the lockdown in India has been extended by 2 more weeks. So
Tomorrow.
that's
Yeah.
going to be interesting, right? People have been in the house for 3 weeks and now 2 more weeks. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
things have been changing. So Chitali, what is your thought like on this story? I know you said that you have seen this on Facebook, so that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
talk to you last because you have probably some thoughts on that.
So yeah, I follow this guy who's like Nas, if I'm not wrong. This Nas Daily, he makes regular videos, and he has presented it. And I was really, really at one, like I just remembered this very famous quote by President John F. Kennedy, and this is very, very apt at this moment, as this COVID-19 comes from China. It says, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. So I would very much agree that, this guy who has done, proposed to this girl in a way, he looked at this time of crisis also, he looked for an opportunity. And I would request and, make an appeal to the people, like you should also look for the opportunities, learn for the learn from these stories, look at them in a positive perspective. And whatever, like, you know when you are forced to think something in your life, and you find your way out. That is the beauty of this life, that in crisis also this guy found out the opportunity. So I think instead of focusing on negativity and crisis, let's focus more on trying to find positivity, love, and opportunity for ourselves.
Right. So I think that the saying that great minds think alike, it goes a long way. So you were talking about this Chinese word
Yeah,
called crisis, made of two words, right? Danger and
yeah,
opportunity. And I had that in like one of my upcoming slides. So I thought maybe I'll just bring it
great.
up because you
Oh, that's great.
talked about this. So
So your story just reminded me of this, and I
yeah,
just thought this would be appropriate over here.
right,
So
right. And it's
yeah,
funny, it is a Chinese virus and it's a Chinese
proverb.
word. So in times of crisis, we remember China a lot, I guess, right? Because
Yeah,
everything is
yeah,
made in China nowadays, right? So
yeah.
uh, so speaking of this, right? I mean, again, going back to that story, I just want to quickly relate my perspective on this also, right? So as I said before, I think one important thing is what we find is Mallika said this and Anju said this as well, is we crave for connection, right? It could be in any
Yeah,
form, and it's true, right? I have a WhatsApp group of my family back home, which has like 60 plus people, all extended family. And once in a while, someone will send a message and ask how things are. They will share jokes and stuff. But in the last 3 weeks, since they have been on lockdown, every day everybody is engaged. They are asking something, they are talking about something, they are playing games, asking questions. They are more engaged. So maybe it is the time that they have at their hand now which is allowing them to do that. But at the same time, that connection that was kind of very loose, we have been able to make
yeah,
that bond a little bit stronger in this 3 weeks. So that is definitely something that has come out good out of this coronavirus situation. And I hope that it lasts longer. So, for example, this guy, he just had a virtual date. I hope that they continue that relationship, and something similar is happening around the world, across the world, in different parts of the world, with families, with friends who had lost connection for long. Now they're getting back in touch. So I hope that we learn that lesson in humility and go back to some of those connections. Thanks for sharing your
true.
thoughts. So let me move on to the next question. Sorry, you had something to say, Chetan? Okay. All right. So let me move on to the next question. You know, everybody is different, right? Some of us are more health conscious. Some of us are more career conscious. Some of us are more finance conscious. What are the key pointers from your personal experience that you practice daily in order to keep yourself motivated in whatever field that may be, right? Maybe in building your business, maybe just getting motivated to do the exercise now that the gyms are closed. How do you uh, keep yourself motivated? What are the two pointers to keep yourself more engaged and happy overall? And Chetali, you just answered the last question. So I'm going to start this one with Anju to get her perspective, and then we'll move on to Mallika.
Sure. So my perspective on it is, first, give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling, right? So, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on people to be happy and positive. But if you're not feeling happy and positive, you're not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Acknowledge those feelings, work those out. If you need to cry, have a good cry. If you need to break something, but then move on,
Accept
right?
your husband's
So
comment.
acknowledge, take action, and then move on. Don't linger in that state. So once you start, I mean, there are days when I'm in a funk, right? You look at the death count, you look at the case count, and it's hard not to feel bad about it. And it's a very human reaction. And if you're not feeling that way, maybe that's more concerning,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. But then it's like you really can't control the situation. You can only control your own actions, right? And your thoughts. So that's when, like, what helps me is, I've never been, maybe in college days when everybody writes a diary, I used to, but I've picked it up again. I've started journaling, even if it's just doodling, and that's helping me a lot. Knowing that I cannot put the same productivity expectations on myself has helped a lot too. If it took me 2 hours to do something before, maybe it takes 4 hours now because the kids are home. There's somebody asking for chai every 2 hours. So all of that compounds, right? And I go look at, like, there's news stories coming on your phone all the time. And all of that takes your attention, and it's okay. Give yourself some grace, is what I would say. And really go out if you can. I know that's hard in India, but if people here in the US are listening, we take a walk every day as a family, right? Or we go biking, and that's really helped. And just really, I mean, knowing that, okay, I'm not feeling good today, so maybe I need to binge watch Netflix for a couple of hours before I can get back to work. That's okay.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when this whole thing happened, there were so many LinkedIn messages. There's so many things about, make this time the best time of your life. Learn this, learn that. Something that you had kept on the side. Start pick up that skill. I took out my guitar, but I haven't even touched it in last 15 days. Right? Like you said, there's so many other things that take priority, and
Yeah,
you cannot overwhelm yourself with.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, Malika, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So uh, interestingly, you mentioned motivated, right? I think the idea of motivation comes when you think that it's a terrible time and I have no choice, but so hence I need to do something to get my head away from there and focus on something positive. See, that happens when there is no acceptance. When you know that COVID-19 is reality, right? It's not in your hands, out of your control. First, that acceptance is very, the moment you understand that it is out of your control, you can do nothing about it for staying indoors and keeping yourself healthy. And so, and praying for your family and loved ones. That's one. And second is the myth about positivity. And like Anju aptly mentioned, that being positive and forcing yourself to be positive is actually denying yourself to feel an emotion. We as humans are capable of feeling about 34,000 emotions, right? And there are about 3,000 emotions listed in dictionary. So we do not know the rest of the ones. We cannot name it. We cannot explain it. So you see, it's very important to bring awareness and understand what is that you're feeling. Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling disappointment, loneliness? Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you anxious? Are you worried? All are different feelings. So first of all, addressing your emotions and understanding yourself is very important. Once you understand, acceptance comes in, and you say, okay, the best I could do is this. And then do what you can do best with your with the time in your hand. Now there is another myth that we always need to get ourselves engaged in something or the other. right? So if it is not this, then do something else. Whether we like it or not, the world is on a pause, and it's a forced pause. I'm not denying it. This syndrome of busyness, that busyness is productive, busyness is positive, busyness is being useful, is actually, it's time to think about it and redefine it also. So if you got a pause, just take the pause. Just be aware of the moment and be in the moment and make best use of it. Lastly, you mentioned about happiness. I again agree with Anju that there is a myth that people have to be happy all the time. As per me, people who are most likely to be happy most of the time are babies, and also people who have lost their mental balance. Right? Imagine you are laughing all the time. People might call asylum. So happiness is also a myth. So giving yourself permission to feel all the emotions and accept the reality also, and then do what best you could possibly do is just good enough, I believe.
Thanks, Mallika. Those are really good thoughts. Yeah, and I think you are right. We cannot be happy all the time. We need to. We need not be in a denial mode, right? We need to accept where we are and how can we come out of it. How can we improve it? And also, the reason to also stay positive at this point is you're also impacting the people around you, right? So you need to really understand where you are, and if you need time out from others, then do that, because your emotions should not impact others. And if, let's say, you are not happy because of all the things that are going on, making chai 3 times a day, you don't want that unhappiness to go to others as well, right? So very important to keep
Yeah.
understanding your emotions. Chetali, what are your thoughts?
I would completely agree with Mallika and Anju here over here. Yeah, Anju, sorry. So I'm really bad at remembering names. So I'm sorry, Anju.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, we are, at the end of the day, we are all humans, and it's really, really important to understand how we are from inside and to accept our emotions, actually. And behaving the way normal, like there is a lot of pressure of being happy all the time. So not should not come into the pressures like that. So whatever I would say, I wanted to say, both of them have almost covered. So I would give a few quick hacks over here to people, like what I have been doing with my life. So maybe these ideas can help people who are there in this webinar with us. So basically, what I do is in a day is like, I start a day with a proper routine, and I get ready every day morning as I regularly get ready for my work. Before that, I used to have my workouts in gym. I have shifted them to home, and we are having now family workouts. Now, then we do meditation. Then I do have my or whatever online workshops or webinars, or I'm addressing my clients. Then in the evening, I find out some time for my long lost passion, which is dance. So I have joined on some online dance classes, and I've again restarted my dancing. I listen to songs, and I'm very choosy while listening to song, like listening to all positive and motivated songs with good beats and all that. So it keeps your mood a little upbeat. Make some nice coffee for myself, sit in the window, just laze around, look outside, and these are some certain things, like reading books, listening to probably so few good podcasts, and certain things I've implemented. Like one thing is there, whenever you like, it's what I do when I feel that I am I'm into anxiety or I'm worried. So what I do is just I go in a calm, quiet room. I close my eyes, and I try to imagine and visualize the good moments I spend with people, with my friends, whenever I received some surprises, gifts, or I had some outings or travel places and all that. And while imagining and thinking about them gives me a real happiness. And when I'm out of that room after 5 minutes, I really, really feel happy. So this is one quick hack. It has worked every time for me, and it can work for you too. Another thing is, we have thrown a challenge in the family, like for the workouts. So who will be like losing more weight by the end of the pandemic, and So me, my husband, we are doing like who's doing more apps today, and we have made this chart and we put our scores over there, and there's this fight. So we are active the whole day because there's a competition going on in the house. So this is another hack I'm using in my house. And one is I've designed this for my kids to keep them busy and motivated. We have made a kids scorecard over here. So what we do is for every good work, because in this times we are not having any household help, so we divided our works, and everybody is assigned a particular work. So when they do this task on time and nicely and tidily, and so we give them stars, and they are collecting these stars. When end of the pandemic, they can encash those stars for the any gift they want, any outing they want to try. So like we have designed like if you earn these many stars, you can do this, you can do that. So that way we are trying to bring in some interest in the house, and we are really trying to make it interesting. And these are very, very doable small things which we are trying out in our house, apart from and this is in all keeping us away from that pressure of trying to feel happy and kind of being that bitter, unnatural. I would call it as an unnatural way of living. So we are living naturally and we know at the back of our mind we have limited resources, we cannot move step out of our houses. So these are some little hacks which we are implementing in our house, and many a times at the end of the day I forget even that we are going through this pandemic. So that's really helps me out, my family out, and I hope people who are listening to it can help them out in some or the other way.
No, I think that's really good advice, especially for the parenting and family side of it. So my son, after the first week of lockdown, he comes to me like, Dad, did you look at my closet? It has been nice and tidy for last 7 days. And I'm like, you've been
Oh
wearing the
wow.
same pajamas for last 7 days. So you know, it's just so
That's
we do something similar. Like we have some rewards for him to clean his room, make his bed, things like that, which is increased now that he has more work during the pandemic because he's at home all the time.
yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. So Anju, I think the advice is that if you're making if you're making tea 3 times a day, every time you boil the tea, do a plank, right? So, mix it up.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a great idea, in fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good idea.
Yeah, so that takes us to our next question. And this is again, I'm asking for two things because I know we are short on time and we don't want to, repeat certain things because I know all of you have a lot of ideas. So I want to just talk about two things that you think we should be prepared for. It could be related to a career, it could be related to your profession, it could be related to family. We know that things will change, and we know a lot of things could change, right? Like I'm hearing from people that a lot of their companies have even said that they can work from home till October. In India, TCS is saying that they are changing plans on how things work, so more and more people can work remotely. They don't even need to come into office. So not only financially, day-to-day business, day-to-day activities will change. Schools, the way that they do things might change. So what are two things that you think we should be prepared for when we come out of this crisis? And I think this time I want to start with Mallika. Being in a city like Hyderabad, how do you see these things changing, and what are some of the things that we can start preparing ourselves for?
So as you rightly mentioned, the work culture is certainly going to change, right? And there are actually good reasons why people should be working from home. One harsh reality we all have to face is unemployment. As per some of the statistics, millions of jobs are going to be redundant. They're going to lose the jobs, and a lot of industries are going to get wiped out too. So it's a good time for people to reinvent themselves and accept digitization. Digital world is going to be reality. It is already a reality. It's going to be big. I'm also seeing that most of the schooling also would be done online for the best part of the year. So parents and the school kids, everybody has to be prepared for that. The second is the stress, the accumulated stress of being confined in four walls, because we are social beings and it is important for us to have that. So this stress that we are going through for these few months are going to stay with us for a little longer time. So it is very important for people, especially children, to accept these emotions, like I mentioned earlier, and do activities like meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi. These are very good ways to de-stress yourself from the body and mind. So the the stress factor is going to be much more higher, and it has no age bar this time because kids are equally stressed. I do mindfulness sessions for schools and children now online, and whenever I ask them, oh, how are you feeling about the whole thing, they're lonely, they're sometimes scared because of all the information they're seeing, and they're stressed about the whole thing. So it's important for parents to be mindful of that and of themselves, of their mental and emotional health, and also of their kids. So these two aspects are going to be huge.
Thanks, Mallika. Chetali, what are your thoughts? And again, I want to understand because everybody is in a different place. So Hyderabad is a much bigger metro. You being in Indore, which is a tier 2 city, but it is still is a big place, and a lot of cases are coming out of Indore also. So how are things there, and how do you think they are going to change in the next few months?
So yeah, right now I would say we are in a bad shape. So things, because it's a tier 2 city and digitalization didn't take place that much over here. So people are still used to, like, they like that personal touch, going and meeting people, and the business was also done that way. So not much of the, like, online buying and all that is there, but like remote studies, and even kids are not even used to using the computers for their education in this area. It's still the traditional classroom education which is going on. Maybe few of the schools have shifted to the digital classrooms, but as far as kids are concerned, like even my son, we had to actually teach him how to get on to, because we always wanted to reduce the screen time. So our kids were more or less, more on the grounds, like they were playing outside and all this after the school time and all that. So it's being really difficult for them. So the scenario will change. Schools are again trying to come up with the online learning systems and all that, but it is not at that advanced stage. So we have a long way to go. So this year, probably I feel is going to be a little more struggle for us. This so far the studies are concerned, like they are not going to be as regular because we lack resources. Even the kids are not having dedicated laptops and gadgets for themselves to use for their education. If there is a family, there is hardly one or two gadget a parent are having who are working basically. So the struggle is like when I talk to a lot of schools, they say, okay, we have started online, but hardly 10 or 20% of the students are owing the gadgets to access the portals or websites or go and learn online and all this. So this is going to be another challenge for us. Even if they provide solutions, like for market and the people to get ready, it will take time. But as per me, like the two things which we should be expecting a change over here is, like, a behavioral change will definitely come. The way it will affect the way we design, communicate, build and run the people's need and wants. And we will really have to learn to understand and accept, because right now at our level, understanding and acceptance is a second stage. Understanding only is not there. So the battle here is going to be a little more tough, I would say. And the way we execute, I think behavioral and execution wise, these are the two major things we should be ready once this gets over, because there will be a great change in these two things.
Okay, thanks, Chetali. So Anju, now coming to the Houston, the US, and especially I think Houston has been doubly hit because one is of course the coronavirus, COVID-19 situation, and on top of that, with everything going on with the oil and gas prices, right? I mean, this is the first time in history the oil futures went negative. So that has impacted the Houston economy. I personally know a lot of people who have either lost their job or have been furloughed for indefinite times, and they don't know when they will return to office, if at all. How do you see these things getting better, and what are the two things that will change forever that we should prepare for?
So, so I think it's, I'll preface it by saying that I'm not an economist, right? So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Uh, Oil troubles aside, I mean, the market in general is in a very weird state. You have a massive contraction by not having production in the system, and then the government is trying to artificially balance it out by stimulus. That is not something that's long-term sustainable. So at some point, I mean, I personally think the markets are going to crash, right? So I think that's one thing you should be prepared for. Again, I am not a stock expert, but like logically, unless we keep up with the stimulus, that is definitely going to happen. Oil and gas, yeah, I mean, they are in this place where they have to quickly figure out what is the most effective way to do business, right? So far it's been, we'll drill a hole, if it doesn't work we'll go drill somewhere else, right? The whole exploration value chain is very um, I mean, there's a lot of inefficiencies in there. So I can totally see them going and looking at how do we do discoveries, how do we do exploration, how can we improve that, and a lot of oil companies are also going to really speed up their investment in renewable resources. That's my prediction, if you will. In terms of what we can do, I think if mentally and financially preparing for the possibility of a recession, don't stress out, but know what your options are. And really show up to work, right? Even if you're working at home, show up, engage, participate, and see how you can contribute. Because you know that it's hard times even for the businesses, so they will be asking you to do more with less, and it's always a demand on people. But right now I think you should be prepared to do that.
Thanks, Anju. And I think I also want to talk about a couple of things there, especially when I talk to people in their career questions, right? I mean, they have questions about, okay, I was preparing for this job interview, which is on hold. Am I going to get that job, right? And I have seen in the past 2 3 weeks, a lot of people have lost their jobs, but at the same time, I did hear positive news from people who were in the process of their job interview and they did get hired. I know Amazon hired like 100,000 people in different areas, and some of the people that they hired are those from school districts, people who have lost their job because of the school being closed. They hired them for a temporary employment until situations get better, and then they can go back to their job. So there is a mix of good and bad. So there are things which are bad and they will take time to recover. But then there are companies like Amazon or companies like Instacart who need more people to be able to cope up with the demand that they are seeing with online delivery, online ordering of groceries. So there is always good and bad. Some people may have to make choices to take a temporary work so that they can continue to provide for their family financially. But then these things will pass, right? And then they will be able to come up with better choices or more options once things get better. And I guess the same thing, like you said, applies. We need to keep our chin up. We need to keep our motivation high and continue to work towards showing up for work. Show the best you can do. If you are preparing for an interview, gather more information about the company and tell them how you can help them during this pandemic and afterwards. So just you need to put a little bit more effort than you were doing before and be prepared for that going forward, because if companies are going to cut uh, cost, if they are going to let go of people, then the demand on people who are staying is going to be more. And the more you can be effective in your job, the more productivity you can gain for your employer, it will be helpful in long term. For those who are in businesses, I think one thing that I know some of my uh, colleagues or some of my business partners are doing is looking out for opportunities. There are a lot of small businesses who do not have enough cash to sustain, and they need help. So they need people who can partner. They need people who can help them gain that cash if they are not eligible for loans. How can you find those opportunities in your area, in small businesses, local businesses, and maybe build on top of that? So there are opportunities. You need to keep an eye to look for that. But these are the things that will change, right? I mean, we need to be cautious about where we invest, especially in these times. So thanks for those insights.
I actually have another point. I think
Yeah.
it's a perfect opportunity to really think through inefficiencies in your system. I mean, these are the times that new companies and new ideas come out of. So if you really see a market that's not being met,
Yeah.
maybe this is the time to start that startup that you've always been thinking about. Right? That you think will benefit people and can, maybe it's in emergency management, maybe it's in supply chain logistics. That, I mean, you're already seeing everything that's broken with the world as it exists. So
Yeah.
lots of opportunities there for sure.
Yeah, and just a kind of follow-up thought on that. So sometimes just imagine, right? I mean, today we are doing this meeting on Zoom. We are using WhatsApp to connect to our families and friends. Just imagine if this situation would have happened 5 years or 6 years ago, when we did not have access to this mobile network, we did not have access to these applications. It would have been much more worse, right? So we are in the best of the times while we are in the worst of the times, right? So that's something as a perspective also. Like we have everything in our hand. We can connect. We can talk to people. If it had happened 10 years ago, we did not even have that option. So yeah, that's good. So let's move on to our next question. And I know we have 15 minutes left, so I'm not going to be going too much in the detail, but what are some of the areas of opportunities? I think we talked about it a little bit, but what are some of the areas of opportunities that we can say that you have to look forward to that light at the end of the tunnel? Chetali, why don't we start with you? What do you see as light at the end of the tunnel for your personal business or from your standpoint for people?
See, I think from if you ask from my perspective, so or my business perspective, so it's gonna flourish like anything. Yeah, but there are two major areas which will flourish in these times, like, or people should focus more on. Is like, one is the virtual world or the digital world, and there are a lot of opportunities which are going to, be present in front of people. As very rightly Andrew said, that you need to be ready to, maybe you can, for a time being, you can take a short-term job or something like a stopgap arrangement, or you can just work out your finances nicely, just prepare an financial cushion so that you can survive these times and switch on to that. So great opportunities awaiting people in the virtual world, the digital world. And another sector I feel, which was because this came as a shock and we were not prepared, and everybody just thought, we never thought about our health that much, which we are thinking right now. So health is one of the industries which is gonna show up, like, and there are great opportunities over there. And I think as you very rightly said, that when there is a bad part of it, there is always a good part and a positive part of it as well. Like with this, all this which has come, there is a lot of awareness which has entered into this world, and we have learned to operate and execute our lives in a very, very different way. And we have also learned that we can also survive with all these things. We are working from home. We are cutting on a lot of travel time, able to spend a lot of time with our family, friends, connect with them, and we are genuinely connecting with people. So I feel life is gonna be much more beautiful. Probably people will be working from the holiday destinations. All of them, kids can study from there, and you can travel at the same time. So maybe this is being a life coach. My perspective is too positive towards life, but I feel this is the way we should look at life now. That what opportunities it creates for us at the end of the day. And I feel definitely there are job cuts, but definitely there are new areas which are coming up, and what is required is upskill yourself, work a little bit on yourself. Resources are very easily available now. You can just learn sitting at your home with your machines, connect with people, and always brush up your knowledge and get ready for this. And the times which are going to come are going to be much, much better. That's what I feel. A better world. Earth is healing too, and so we are. I feel that way. Yeah.
Thanks, Chetali. Mallika, what are your thoughts?
I see plenty of light at through the tunnel and end of the tunnel too.
Great.
Like Chetali rightly mentioned, that whenever there is a situation, there is always good and bad. There's always yin and yang to everything. right? So instead of focusing on what's going down the drain, it is important for us to, come to a stable place and look at the opportunities and see which of the industries that are flourishing. And yes, coaching, training, and wellness industries are going to flourish because that is the need of the hour. Um, a lot of business are going to go online too. Um, and like Anju was rightly mentioning, that it is now time to look at efficiency more. And I think the lean process will happen across industries, and they eliminate unnecessary roadblocks or unnecessary systems and processes. That's one. What I also see is, apart from the economy and social life, I see that human consciousness is moving to the next level. Um, there are so many more meditation meetings and online meditation, what do you call, communions are happening, that there are more and more people working towards it. So this definitely is time for the coaches, healers, and wellness practitioners to step up the game. And yeah, the earth is certainly healing. I hear so many more birds chirping. The other day I was walking my dog in my community, and there are birds playing on the path, and they were least bothered. I think they must be looking at me and say, she looks like different. Which animal could she be? So uh, I see animals more chirpier, and skies more clearer, air more clean. So yeah, I think I heard Chandigarh, people are able to see the Himalayas. That's fantastic. And Delhi must be seeing sky after uh, God knows how many years. So yeah, I think this detox is a good thing for Earth and for environment, and for us too, in a way that we have actually slowed down to speed up.
Thanks. Anju, what are your thoughts on light at the end of the tunnel?
For me, I am really hopeful that this whole situation brings an increased awareness and understanding, as Mallika was saying, about human influence on nature and climate, right? How we are impacting all the ecosystems on Earth. And I hope that people don't go back to status quo, that they're more mindful of like finding a balance between constructing and conserving, if you will.
Mhm.
So that I hope happens. And I do see people being more intentional about that even now. And as I said before, I also think that there'll be a lot more investment into impact opportunities, impact related startups, or I mean anything that looks at how our society is set up and what can we do to eliminate or at least reduce the inequalities and the inequities in the world.
Mhm.
So those are, I hope, what comes out of this pandemic.
Okay, so that's great. I mean, I think this was a very positive advice that you gave to people. And I don't want to crash the party, but I just want to share this one image quickly. And again, as we talked about, right? Every society has the good and the bad, right? So during this pandemic, we also saw some things which we won't expect, right? So things that need to change. And I don't want to take the negative connotation of that, but we saw doctors being hit with stones when they came or when they went to test people or find people if they were positive, right? And also not enough PPE available for doctors in various locations, and not enough support from the officials for the doctors. At the same time, this was very minimal, maybe like 1% of the situation. For the 99%, there was a big support from the community, and big help from everyone. I hear like every other day some news about celebrating the firefighters or celebrating the workers in the health industry, workers in the safety industry, and helping the communities. So I think it's a balance that we need to bring in as human being in where people are not ready to support. How can the other part of the society bring up that support and create that balance? So that's kind of my parting question. What are some of the negative things that we should stay away from as we get out of this crisis? I think that's like 3 or 4 more minutes left. So I want to start with Mallika on that question, and then go to Anju, and then close out with Chetali. What are some of the negative things that we should stay away from as we get out of this crisis?
Um, One thing, stay out of your own way. Uh, Given a situation, I think we tend to overanalyze it. We tend to intellectualize it. We tend to glamorize it. So I think it is time for us to step back a little and not overdo these thinking processes and get involved with life that you already have. So COVID-19 did not, you know, um, life does go on, right? There are people out there who are fighting it. So I think we need to continue to support them, give our best wishes, and uplift their morale. And of course, a lot of prayers and meditation is going to help as well. But most importantly, people who are staying home and who are watching so much of information out there as if they can write a thesis on COVID-19 once this is done, stop scaring yourself. Stop terrorizing yourself by exposing yourself to all this information, and stop forwarding this information, and call for debates and conversations. It's not going to help. We are not the experts to talk about it. Things are being done. So I want people to stop taking themselves too seriously and relax. Use this pause to reinvent themselves. World is changing. It's better to prepare for the change rather than wallow in the past.
Thanks, Mallika. Anju?
I think the things, to me personally, the things that it's it's different things, right? Um, One thing that I want to do more of, or rather something that I don't do at times, and I need to stop that, is really expressing how we feel about certain situations. Sometimes you don't want to get into a conflict, and I'm not saying pick up fights with people on social media, right? But if you feel like there's something wrong going on, take action, right? So don't be a bystander. I mean, if anything, what I've learned from this is life's way too unpredictable. The only way to go without regrets is to make sure that you actually do what you believe and communicate what you believe. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Thanks, Anju. Chetali, what are your parting thoughts on this?
Uh, as I would here connect with Mallika a lot, like, as she said, we are no experts and we need not write any kind of a thesis on COVID-19. So just stop forward, stop talking about it, stop watching to news more and more. Just maybe once in the day is enough for it. Just don't look at those figures, how many deaths today and all that. Just, I think, probably sit back, relax, thank the people who are out there helping us, and have the feeling of gratitude. You are alive, you are healthy, you can still breathe, and as I said, earth is breathing, earth is healing, so as the environment is changing for us. Just a little patience and little mindfulness, conduct your life well, learn new things, and probably take this time as an opportunity to grow, learn, become a better human being, become a better parent, become a better partner to someone, become a better employee, become a better employer. And at the end, I would say, let's all join our hands together and fight it out with positivity, motivation, mindfulness, and lots of love for everyone around.
Thanks for sharing those beautiful thoughts. So yeah, I think, and I would just say one thing that I have read about, and it applies to any situation, not only the coronavirus situation, and that is basically, it is in the moment of your decision that your destiny is shaped. So
Yeah.
every day we make a lot of decisions. When you wake up, you decide whether you want to exercise and do something good, or you want to stay in the bed, or you want to stay doing what you were doing yesterday. So I think we have to make those decisions for ourselves, for our community every day. And the decisions that we make, the good decisions that we make, are going to change how we come out of this crisis, and how we propel, how we thrive when we come out of this crisis. So I appreciate all of your thoughts, Anju, Chetali, and Mallika. Thanks for having this conversation with us. I'm sure that our audience would love your opinions, your suggestions, and some of them can even use those suggestions in their day-to-day life to improve their quality of life during and after this crisis. Uh, Thanks so much for your time. I'm sorry that we are a little late from finishing this off, but I appreciate each and every minute that you spent with me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.